Good morning. Today we'll be studying the 12th chapter of Hilchot Shabbat, and this chapter will deal with the least amount of melachot. We're going to deal with 3 melachot in this chapter: Hav'ara, um, Kibiyah, and Hotza'ah. And the first melacha Harambam is going to deal with, Hav'ara, is the only melacha out of the 39 melachot that is explicitly mentioned and prohibited in the Torah. Even though in this chapter we'll see there is an allusion to Hotza'ah, but when HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed, actually in this week's Parashat Beshalach, to the Jews in regards to keeping Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Jewish people, Lo teva'aru esh bechol moshavotechem beyom HaShabbat, and it's the only melacha that's explicitly prohibited from the Torah. In Hilchot Shabbat, Perek Yud Bet, Halacha Aleph. Hamav'ir kol shehu hayav. Anyone who sets fire to anything is liable. Behu sheyet tzarich la'efer, and provided that he needs the ash of the fire. Aval im hiv'ir derech hashchata patur. However, if his purpose of setting the fire is solely to be destructive, he would be exempt. As he is destroying. And we mentioned that any melacha that is done destructively, one would be patur. But we're going to see in a couple of minutes, there are some qualifications for this. Anyone who sets fire to a stack of produce of his fellow, or burns his dwelling place, hayav, he would be liable. Even though he is being destructive. Because his intention is to take revenge on someone that he despises. And his conscience is cooled, and his anger is forgotten. And it's as if he is tearing his clothes for someone that passed away, or out of anger, that he would be liable. And it's as if he is comparable to someone who strikes his friend when he is angry. As we mentioned before, the reasoning for this is the following. As all of these things are constructively building his evil inclination, and it's as if he's fixing his evil impulse. So too, anyone who lights a lamp or lights wood, either to warm himself or for the purpose to have light, he would be liable. Basically, back in the day, they would heat metal to a very, very hot temperature, and it would cause the metal to be a little bit elastic, and then they would plunge the metal in water in order to harden it. Anyone who heats metal in order to temper it, the process that I just mentioned is called tempering. In order to, by plunging it in water, one would be liable, as heating the metal would be a toledah of mav'ir. He would be liable. They would heat the metal to a very, very hot temperature. So one would be liable because of hav'ara. One who extinguishes any fire at all would be liable. Anyone who extinguishes a lamp, or anyone who extinguishes wood from a fire. However, anyone who extinguishes metal, as we mentioned before in the tempering of metal, anyone who extinguishes fire made out of metal would be exempt. However, if it was done to temper the metal, as you mentioned before, they would plunge the metal into water, one would be liable. As the smiths would temper the metal by plunging it into water. And we mentioned before that the melachot were to distance people from their daily work. מחממים את הברזל עד שיעשה גחלת ומכבים אותו במים כדי לחסמו, וזהו לצרף שעושה אותו חייב, והוא תולדת המכבה. And this is the process that we talked about, that the ironsmith back in the day would heat the metal until it was extremely, extremely hot, and it would glow red, just like coals would glow red. And then they would plunge it in water in order to harden it. And that's what the tempers, the tzaref, would do it. And one who does this on Shabbat would be liable, as it is a derivative of mechabeh. ומותר לכבות גחלת של המתכת ברשות הרבים כדי שלא יוזקו בה רבים. And it is permitted to extinguish a hot metal that is on fire in a public domain in order for the masses not to be injured or hurt by it. הנותן שמן לתוך הנר הדלוק חייב משום מבעיר. Anyone who adds oil to a lamp that is already lit would be liable because it is a derivative of mav'ir, because you're causing the fire to be left longer. Anyone who uses some of the oil that is already inside the lamp, one would be liable, as you are bringing closer the time of extinguishing. הלכה ג' תדלקה שנפלה בשבת, a fire that breaks out on Shabbat, המכבה אותה מפני עיבוד הממון חייב. One who extinguishes it because of monetary loss would be liable. שאין עיבוד הממון דוחה שבת, אלא עיבוד נפשות. As the monetary loss does not override Shabbat, only the loss of life overrides Shabbat. לפיכך יצאו בני אדם כדי שלא ימותו. Therefore, people who are in this fire, for example, in a house with a safe that the fire might burn the safe, the people that are in the house should get themselves out in order for them not to die. And they should leave the fire alight. Even if the fire will burn the entire city. Just something to keep in mind. We mentioned this idea before about halakha and halakha lema'aseh. All of these halachot that we're talking about in Mishne Tora are halakha in theory, and I'm not sure practically if a fire is breaking out in a house, what one would do. If one wants the answer to that question, you can ask your local Orthodox rabbi. הלכה ד' ומותר לעשות מחיצה בכל הכלים. Now this halacha is going to deal with an extremely interesting concept called gerama. מותר לעשות מחיצה בין הכלים. And one may make a barrier with vessels בין מלאים בין ריקנים כדי שלא תעבור הדלקה, either full or empty, in order for the fire not to pass through where the barrier is. אפילו כלי חרס חדשים מלאים מים עושים מהן מחיצה. Even vessels, pottery vessels that are filled with water, one may make a barrier with them. אף על פי שוודאי מתבקעים ומכבים שגרם כיבוי מותר. As despite the fact that these vessels will burst and extinguish the fire, because they indirectly cause the fire to be extinguished, it is permitted. וחופין קערה על גבי הנר בשביל שלא תאחוז בקורה. And one may invert a dish over a lamp in order to prevent a wall or a rafter from catching fire. So there is a solution for if a fire breaks out in one's home. And we use this idea of girama, of indirectly causing extinguishing of a fire. We use this. It seems from Harambam that girama is only applicable for extinguishing a fire. However, there are Chachamim that apply this concept of girama for other cases as well, and I'm not sure if Harambam would agree that one can use the concept of girama for other situations in Hilchot Shabbat. Halacha he, teva shida umigdal she'achaz b'ha'ur, a box, a chest, or a cupboard that caught fire. מביא אור גדי וכיוצא בו מדברים שאין האור מלהטת אותן, ופורסו על הקצה שעדיין לא נשרף, כדי שלא תעבור לו האש. One may bring a goat skin or some other type of non-flammable material and put it over the part that is not yet burning in order to prevent the fire from spreading onto that area. If a cloak or garment catches fire, one may unfold it and wear it. And it doesn't matter by doing so that the fire was extinguished. If the fire is extinguished by you doing so, then the fire was extinguished. So to a Sefer Torah that caught fire, one may unroll it, and he may unroll it and read in it, and it doesn't matter if in the process of doing so the fire was extinguished. And one may pour water on the side of a cloth that has not yet caught fire, and it doesn't matter that by doing so the fire was extinguished. If one forgot a lit fire on top of a wooden table, one may tip over the wooden table, and it indirectly cause the lamp to fall. And if the lamp was extinguished, but in the process, then it was extinguished. However, if the lamp was if the lamp had already been left there on Friday, if it was placed there on Friday already, despite the fact that it may be extinguished, the lamp may not be moved once it falls on the floor, because you set aside deliberately the lamp to be used you set aside the table to be used from before Shabbat to be a base for something that is asur. Therefore, you're not allowed to carry it because it is muktzeh. Halacha zayin. Nochri sheba lechabot. If a non-Jew comes to extinguish the fire, en omrin lo kabeh ve'al techabeh, mipnei she'en shevitato alenu. One may not tell him to extinguish or not to extinguish, as we are not responsible for his shevita, for his resting on Shabbat. Aval katan sheba lechabot. However, a minor that comes to extinguish the fire, en shomrin lo, we do not allow him to extinguish the fire. And provided that he is acting with the awareness of his father. However, if he is acting on his own accord, the court is not instructed to prevent him from extinguishing the fire. And in the case of a fire, Chachamim permitted one to tell a goy, and to declare that anyone who extinguishes the fire does not lose out by doing so. Halacha het. Ha'hotza'ah mireshut l'reshut. And this is the last melacha we're going to deal with. And hotza'ah takes up a number of chapters in Hilchot Shabbat, as we'll see. And we'll translate hotza'ah as transporting. And in the sense that we've talked about the melachot, that they are transformations, that one is by doing hotza'ah mireshut l'reshut, by transporting one object from one domain to another domain, he is transforming the location or dimensions of the object from one domain to another domain. And it is unique, in contrast to the other melachot, that no new product is created by hotza'ah. Rather, it is the transporting of an object from one domain to another domain. ההוצאה מרשות לרשות, מלאכה מאבות מלאכות היא. Transporting an object again from one domain to another domain is one of the avot melachot. ואף על פי שדבר זה עם כל גופי תורה מפי משה מסיני נאמרו, despite the fact that it was said and taught with all of the other substantive laws of the Torah, from that it was told from God to Moshe at Sinai. Harehu omer b'Torah. It is alluded to in the Torah. Rabbi Yohanan in Masechet Shabbat Daf Tzadi Vav Amud Bet actually mentions this exact idea. This is Harambam's source, as it says in the Torah. Ish ve'isha al ya'asu od melacha litrumat hakodesh va'ikale ha'am mehavi. Let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. This is in reference of the Mishkan. So the people were restrained from bringing, and the people ceased from bringing. Halamalta, from here you learn, shehahava'a melacha kore ota, that bringing and transporting one object from another to another is called a melacha. So too it was taught orally. And so similarly it was taught by tradition that if one transports anything in a public domain for a distance of 4 amot, 4 cubits, which is about 2 meters or around 6 feet or so. Again, if one transfers something from a public domain for a distance of 4 amot or more, it is equivalent to transferring it from one domain to another, and one would be liable. Just a quick explanation of Reshut Harabim. Reshut Harabim in Harambam's definition, as we'll see Be'ezrat Hashem in the next chapter, is 16 amot wide, basically a large road. And the Mishnah in Masechet Hagigah has a very beautiful idea and something relevant to our halacha. It says that Shabbat kehararim teluyim behut se'ara, that the laws of Shabbat are as if connected by a very thin hair. Mikra mu'at ve'alachot harbeh vehen hen gufei Torah. They have very small sourcing in the Chumash. However, they have many laws that we practice, and these are the substantive laws of the Torah. And again, it's Masechet Mishnayot and Hagigah, Mishnah Aleph, Halacha Het. Sorry, Perek Aleph, Halacha Het. Halacha Tet. En hammotzim reshut lereshut hayav. עד שיוציא השיעור המועיל מרשות היחיד לרשות הרבים, או מרשות הרבים לרשות היחיד, ויעקור מרשות זו ויניח ברשות שנייה. One is not liable for the transfer of one domain to another unless he transfers an object of minimum useful size, and we'll see what that is in the next halachot, either from a private domain to a public domain. And a private domain, Reshut Yahid, is a place that is 10 tefahim tall, 4 by 4 tefahim wide, or a place with 4 mechitzot, as we'll see in the next chapter. An example of a place with 4 mechitzot is a house. So one would only be liable unless he transfers an object of minimal useful size, again, either from a private domain to a public domain, or from a public domain to a private domain, by detaching the object from one domain and depositing it to another domain. And we're going to see the exact definitions of akira and hanaha, detaching and depositing, in the next halacha, in the next chapter. However, if one detached and did not deposit, or if he deposited without detaching, or if he transported an object that is less than the useful size, one would be exempt. So to anyone who transports from the beginning of 4 amot to the end of 4 amot in a public domain, one is only liable once he detaches the object from one side of the 4 amot in the Reshut Harabim until he places it to the other side of the 4 amot in Reshut Harabim. And so from this halacha, we see that there are 3 elements that one would be hayav for the melacha of hotza'ah, them being akira, hanaha, and hotza'ah. Halacha yod. Hazorek mireshut l'reshut o hamoshit harezet toledet hamotzi v'hayav. One who throws an object or passes an object from one domain to another, one would be liable as it is a derivative of motzi. וכן הזורק או המושיט מתחילת 4 לסוף 4, הרי זה תולד המוציא וחייב. Similarly, throwing or passing an object the distance of 4 amot in a public domain constitutes a derivative of hotza'ah, and one would be liable. If one throws an object backhandedly, he is exempt. המוציא מקצת החפץ מרשות משתי רשויות אלו לרשות שנייה, פטור. עד שיוציא את כל החפץ כולו מרשות זו לרשות זו. If one transfers part of an object from one of the 2 domains to another, he is exempt until he has transferred the entire object from one domain to another. For example, kupa, a basket that is filled with different objects, even if it is filled with mustard seeds, and he transported the majority of the basket from one reshut to another, patur, he would be exempt. He is exempt until he transports the entire basket. And so to anything of this sort. As a vessel that contains many things, the entire vessel is considered one object. Hamotzi ben b'mino ben b'simolo ben betoch heko o sheyatza b'ma'ot serurin lo bisdino hayav mipnei shehotzi kederech hamotziin. One who transfers with his right hand or with his left hand or with his hand in his bosom or his chest, or whether one walks out with money tied in his garment, he would be liable as he is transporting objects that in a manner that objects are typically transported. So too, anyone who transfers an object on his shoulder, he would be liable. Despite the fact that whatever he is carrying may be more than 10 tefahim in Rishut Rabim. That taller than 10 tefahim in Rishut Rabim is something called Mekom Petor, as we'll explain in the next few halachot. That Mekom Petor is basically no man's land, if you want to call it. And despite this, you still can't carry on your shoulder, despite the fact that it is Mekom Petor. שכן היה מסע בין קהת במשכן למעלה מעשרה, as the sons of Kehat also carried their burden on their shoulders that was more than 10 tefahim above the ground. שנאמר בכתף יישאו, as the pasuk says in Sefer Bemidbar, Perek Zayin, that they would carry on their shoulders. וכל המלאכות ממשכן לומדים ממנו. And the nature of all the various types of work, as we mentioned previously, is inferred from what was done in regards to the Mishkan. And for the source, you can look at for Harambam's source in this halakha about the melachot of the Mishkan, that we learn the melachot from all the melachot on Shabbat from the making of from the work and making of the Mishkan. You can look at Masechet Shabbat, Daf Mem Tet Amud Bet. Hachayot Bet. Aval hamotzi le'achar yado. And now we're going to talk about things that are not different ways of transporting something that are not typically done. Aval hamotzi le'achar yado. However, one who transports something with the back of his hand, befiv, with his mouth, uvmarpeko, with his elbow, be'ozno, with his ear, uvis'aro, with his hair, uvchis shetafur bevigdo, ufiha kis lemata. If one had a pocket sewn to his clothes with the mouth of the pocket turned downwards, ben beged leveged, between two articles of clothing, uvmin alo, uv sandalo, patur, or with his shoe or with his sandal, one would be exempt. As he did not transport an object in the typical way people transport objects. One who transports a burden on his head. If the burden was heavy, for example, a full sack, or a box, or a cupboard, or something of the sort, that he would put on his head and hold it with his hand, he would be liable. As things are typically transported in this fashion. And we find that this individual is basically transporting the object with his hand or with his shoulder. However, if he took a light object, for example, if he took a garment or a knife or a book on his head and transported it, and he isn't supporting the object with his hand, he would be exempt. As he did not transport the object in the fashion that objects are typically transported. As people typically do not carry objects on their heads, especially lighter objects. One who transports an object from the beginning of 4 to the end of 4 in a public domain, despite the fact that he transported them above his head, and assuming it would be above 10 tefahim, that would be a makon petor, he would still be liable, as we mentioned in the previous halakha. הלכה י"ד מותר לאדם לטלטל ברשות הרבים בתוך 4 אמות על 4 אמות שהוא עומד בצידן ויש לטלטל בכל המרובע הזה. One is permitted to move objects in a public domain within an area of 4 amot by 4 amot that are in the place that he is standing throughout the entire space of this square of 4 by 4. And according to one's personal cubit or amma, and amma was an arm's length, we measure the 4 amot according to him. And we mentioned before that this space of 4 amot is basically one's personal space. If an individual was undersized or short, we give this individual the space of 4 amot of an average person. And it was taught by the Torah Shebe'al Peh that when it refers to the Torah, Shevu ish tahtav, in this week's parasha, Eshalach, when it says Shevu ish tahtav, that abide every person in his personal space, that one may not carry an object or move an object outside the square of 4 amot, as it is, this pasuk is talking in reference to the man, that the man would fall outside the tents of the Jewish people, and the Jewish people would have to bring the man to their tents. The Jewish people would have, on Friday, the man would fall double the amount, that one would take one portion for Shabbat and one portion for Friday and one portion for Shabbat. And as a result, there would be no need to leave their personal space of 4 amot. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructs the Jewish people, Shevu ish tahtav, ish bimkomo b'yom hashvi'i, that every Jew may not leave his place on the 7th day. This place obviously referring to outside of the 4 amot. That one may not move objects outside the square of 4 by 4, only within it, and its measurement is equal to that of a person with his hands or legs stretched out. Halakha Tedvav. Hayu Shenayim. If there were 2 people and their 4 amot squares overlap, miktzat 4 amot shel hazeh letoch 4 amot shel zeh, that the sum of one's 4 amot square overlap with another 4 amot, a person's 4 amot square, mevi'in ve'ochlin ba'emtza, they may bring food and eat it there together. Ubilvad shelo yotzi zeh mitoch shelo letoch shel havero, provided that neither of them transfers anything from his individual 4 amot region to his neighbor's 4 amot region. If there were 3 people and the square of the second person is fully covered by the other 2 people, hu mutar imahem vehem mutarin immo ushnayim hachitzoniim asurim ze im ze, that the middle person may eat he may eat with either person, either the person on his left or on his right, and vice versa, but the 2 people on the outside of the middle person may not eat together. Halakha Tetzayin. לפיכך, מותר לאדם לעקור חפץ מרשות הרבים וליתנו לחברו שעמו בתוך 4 אמות. וכן חברו לחברו, האחר שבצידו, ואפילו הן 100. From the halakha that we just mentioned, we learn that one person may pick up an object in a public domain, hand it over to a second person who is within the first person's 4 amot space, then the second person may transport an object to a third person who is next to him, and provided that they are within each other's 4 amot, and they may do so continued to 100 people. Despite the fact that this object is being transported many amot on Shabbat, it is permitted. That for each individual in this case is only moving the object within his 4 amot space, and it is permitted to do so continuing for a very long time. הלכה יוד זין. הואיל ויש לו לאדם לטלטל בכל המרובע שלו, שהוא 4 אמות על 4 אמות, נמצא מטלטל באורך אלכסונו של מרובע זה 5 אמות ו3 חומשי אמה. Since one may move an object throughout the square whose dimensions are 4 by 4, he may also move it diagonally, the length of which is 5 3/5 amot. לפיכך, therefore, אין המעביר או הזורק ברשות הרבים חייב עד שיעביר חוץ ל5 אמות ו3 חומשי אמה. Therefore, if one transports an object or throws an object in a public domain, he is not liable unless he transports it for more than 5 3/5 אמות. בכל מקום שאמרנו בתחילת 4 לסוף 4 או המעביר 4 אמות חייב, in any place that we mentioned a distance of 4 amot, or we've said that if one transports an object 4 amot, then he would be hayav. הוא מתחילת האלכסון של ל4 אמות ועד סופה. It is to be understood that we're talking about one end diagonally of the square whose side is 4 amot to the end. And if one transports an object for less than this distance, he would be exempt. Final halacha yudhet. Nimtza kan shalosh midot. We find now 3 different measurements of distance. Ketzad. And in these 3 measurements of distance, Mehila here, sorry. Harambam here is going to basically summarize a bunch of what we've talked about in this chapter about Hotzah. We find 3 different measurements. Ketzad. If one picks up an object at one point in a public domain and puts it down in another public domain, if the distance that he transported the object is less than 4 amot, then transfer is permitted. However, if between the place that he transferred was 4 if he transported the object more than 4 amot, but less than 5 3/5 amot, he would be patur, he would be exempt from mideoraita, but he would still be hayav midirabanan. Hayav benehen 5 amot u3 חומשי אמה בשווה, הרי זה חייב שהרי העביר החפץ חוץ לאלכסונו של למרובע. However, if the distance is 5 3/5 cubits or more, he would be hayav as he transported the object further than the length of the diagonal of a 4 by 4 amot square. Bezrat Hashem, later today, we'll study the 13th chapter of the Shabbat.